And there it is.
Are you going to tell them that Meg's here too?
Oh, 1 second. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Between the Lines. I am John Lofton, live in studio this week, and here's hoping we don't have very many audio issues here. You know what? Let's just take a sanity check before I do a 40-minute long show like I did last week and have some audio issues. So, sincerely apologize. Raven, my producer and also wife, beautiful, talented wife, is running the mixer this week. So let's see if we have audio going here through real quick here. So what we're going to do, she's going to come over here and click on this. I'm still training her, so we're doing on-the-job training. And I do mean on-the-job training. Can you get to it? You went too far left. Oh my goodness, folks. So here's hoping we're live and on air. Just wanting to see the broadcast mixer here. If you guys want to comment, make sure you can hear me over there too. That'd be great. So she's passing me the mice, tapping out. All right, here we go. Let me just figure this out. Here's, we got that. And let's click on that. Hey, I've got audio. That looks good to me. All right, we are doing good, folks. I am happy. Hand that back to her. She's got the mouse control. And let's get started with the show. Again, my name is John Lofton here, Between the Lines, live at you. We're still in our beta shows, but I'm hoping that we have a good show today. We're going to do a repeat of what we were doing last week. We're talking about the new stimulus package. Many of you guys have already gotten your money. Hope you did, and I hope you're using it wisely, because we're going to be talking all about like kind of the middle way we can look at all this money. You know, we can look at this from a Democratic perspective here, and we could say, hey, let's use this money. We're going to generate a bunch of economy. We'll worry about that debt later. That's kind of the feeling I've gotten anyway. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's kind of the feeling I've gotten. Then we look at the Republican side of the fence here, and we say, okay, they're kind of like not really on board with this. Not a single Republican signed on to this bill. Period. End of story. And, because it was too much, wasn't targeted enough. I don't think there were too many Republicans that actually disagreed with the idea that we really do kind of need still a little bit of extra help in our economy. The trouble is how do we do this? And I think this is a cool topic for us to be talking about in Between the Lines today. But, and you just heard it. Sorry, guys. He's on the air. All right. He ruined his own introduction with the But anyway, we have a very special guest, at least to me. You guys don't know him. That's okay. I'm going to introduce you. His name is Kevin Lofton, and if the last name doesn't give it away, he is not only family, he is my father. And I thought, because one of the things we do with this show is we are always telling, like, we tell a story, right? Because you guys need to know something about me, something the way I'm thinking. And we're going to have guests on, and we're going to ask them, and we're going to have them tell stories too about what they think and why they think the way we do. And then we're going to have a discussion about it, possibly a debate if we disagree. And from that, we'll be able to kind of see eye to eye, hopefully, at least to understand. Even if it's an agree to disagree, I'm still going to have the respect, because then I'm going to have a better understanding of what they're thinking, and they're going to have a better understanding of what I'm thinking. So with no further ado, I'm going to quit jabbering here. Kevin Lofton, how are you doing, sir? I should say father. Hey, Dad, how you doing? Oh, where are you? Tell the folks where you're at right now.
Southernmost part of McNairy County, and it's outside. It's pretty outside. Temperature's probably in the high 60s, low 70s. It's sunshine. Beautiful day outside.
Let's get a picture on screen for you. Not your video, but let's take the yep, that one. There he is. There's what my dad looks like. He looks like Santa Claus. If Santa Claus were a redneck. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. I would never say that to another guest. You look like Santa Claus. Do kids? I mean, I would never have, because when I was a kid, you didn't have the beard. But do kids actually, like the church kids, that they mistake you for Santa Claus? No one ever call you, hey, it's Santa Claus. It's Daddy Santa Claus Lofton. Nothing? No. You certainly got the beard for it. I don't know how, but that genetic part did not rub off. Y'all can see I'm bald, for one. I shaved my head. because it's coming. And then I can't grow a beard or a mustache very well. Some people see me with a little bit of a mustache, but it's not very good. So I just shave it all off. Why not? But my dad has kind of been a part of my life, and it's been challenging at times. You know, I'm not going to get into all that, but the reason I wanted to have him on the show as not only the first guest for Between the Lines in our beta show program here, before we do a full big launch, and oh my goodness, I've got some stuff to tease y'all about. You're going to love the new show. But the reason I wanted him on the show today specifically is not only will I tell you a story about myself, but he's going to tell you a little bit about me as from my father perspective, and maybe give you the guidance on how he got his morals and his values and his logic of thinking. And then you guys can kind of see as we progress, as this show matures, what motivated me. How did I get to this point of the way I think, my idiosyncrasies and my thought logic, and where I lean on the political and social economic spectrum of, right and wrong and what's good, what's bad. So at this point, we already rehearsed this whole thing yesterday. So, Dad, here is your time to shine. Tell us about yourself. Tell us about where you grew up. Tell people about me. And let's just go from there.
I was born in Memphis, Tennessee, back in 1959, 62. Uh, when I was born, uh, there was some medical problems. I was born with cataracts in both my eyes. Uh, when I was a very small child, they were able to surgically remove part of the cataract from my eye, so I had some sight uh, up until about 1984, 1985. But lived in Memphis for the first 9 or 10 years of my life, and then in 1969 we moved to Hernando, Mississippi. That's where I really grew up there.
Yeah.
My folks had your grandparents. We had 65 acres of land, raised cattle for a while. We worked. You had to work to keep something like that up. Uh,
Now I remember that. Oh man,
and
the best. I don't mean to cut you off, but that was the best years of my life. Getting to be on in Granddad's old acreage. That was the best years of my life.
it was the best thing that could have happened to all of us. Me and your uncles growing up. It was a good place to grow up. When I turned 16, we found out that I would eventually go totally blind because of glaucoma. They said it could happen tomorrow or 10 years from now. I went to, I did my last 2 years of high school in Tennessee school. Blind, I'm glad I did. Uh, I graduated in 77. Fast forward to about uh, uh, 1982, I had married uh, your mom, and I talked to some doctors, even the ones in Memphis that knew my case, knew my history, and they said there was no way that my offspring could inherit what happened to me because it was complications from birth. Well, I guess about 2 or 3 months after you came along, unfortunately for us, especially you had the same eye problems I did. But we tried to decide on going to Memphis letting them do surgery or whatever when you're there, and finding the doctor in Oklahoma City. And I remember talking to your uncles one night, and he said, "Good decision that y'all had to make." But he said, "If you'll pray about whatever decision it'll go okay. Honestly,
You,
pray about it."
you know, Dad, I really love that you're talking about this. So apparently, I can hear you perfectly fine. I'm gonna have you pause because I don't want to have you repeat this whole thing because it's a great story. Um, but apparently, we're having some difficulty getting you on the stream. And what's interesting is I'm actually seeing that VU meter bounce up. So I'm gonna ask the audience here: are y'all able to hear him at all? Is he just quiet, or is he like non-existent, like mute? Are you just hearing silence when I'm not talking? I want to find that out because on my side here, and this is why we're in beta, folks. So appreciate your patience here. But helps us narrow out our issues because you guys don't see this behind the scenes, but I have about 4 upstreams right now going to the internet, and I have about 2 different mixing layers. Would the producer like to talk? You can talk since
No.
we're in troubleshooting mode right now.
Well, someone says that they can hear him. If you...
Oh, he's just quiet. So my dad's just quiet. Okay. So let's adjust this. I hate to do like live mic checks on air, but this is why we're in beta. I promise you, once the show goes public, and y'all are gonna see a huge difference. Like I'm working with a couple different companies right now for branding, and we're gonna have all cool graphics. It's gonna be really sweet.
Yeah, they're saying he's very quiet.
Okay. Well,
very low, not much.
What's interesting is I have him like cranked up all the way. I guess we'll just do that.
Do you want your dad to try to say something now?
Yeah, Dad, go ahead and give us a mic check.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, well, you're blowing out my eardrums. Let's see here. Give us one more mic check, Dad.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Okay, for some reason it is not routing him over there. I think I have an idea why, but I don't want to do it. I'm worried it's going to give them feedback. But let me try this one thing. So the other thing is on the mixer, we have multiple mix buses. And what those are, essentially lets me route my audio in any direction that I need to go. Well, one of those is actually, my dad isn't hearing the same audio that you guys are. He's hearing everything but him, just like a mix minus. So in an effort to troubleshoot that, let's go ahead and unmute them. So Dad, I apologize if you guys get an echo, but I want to try to see if it's picking it up on this mix bus instead of me. Okay, now give us a mic check.
Can you hear me now?
One more time.
Can you hear me now?
Alright, can you scroll in the comments over there? Someone said something. I can't read it.
Very low, not much.
No, right after that. There's another one at the bottom there.
I can hear what he's saying. Okay. So he can hear you. I don't know why it's like that. That is so interesting. This is weird, folks, because like for me, like I have a good volume, and actually his volume is like almost twice as high as my mic. And what we're doing here is we have like a Facebook call, and I'm not gonna bring him on screen, but let me just see what I can do here with the output.
You might have to get that thing.
I hope not.
Is it just me or does that
Well, me too.
keep moving?
You have to. I mean,
Yeah, because he receives me on that mix bus, and I'm receiving him on a Dante virtual card. But I'm gonna switch this over because I know for a fact that one of these will work. I got 16 channels to choose from here, so let's figure this out. So we'll switch over here and we'll save. All right, and then we're gonna come back. We're gonna unmute this. And let's see if that's any better. Dad, go ahead and give us another mic check, would you?
sure.
You cut in and out a little bit on that one.
Do it one more time. Just curious here.
Can you hear me now?
Hey, I don't know why, but it's got you on a separate mic channel inside the broadcast software. So we'll address that next week. But for now, I do believe this will work. So I'm not going to complain about it.
Can other people hear him?
They should be able to hear him. Give us one more mic check and then we'll continue.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Give us some more passion. One more.
Can you hear me now?
Much better. Okay, cool.
All right.
All right, folks. Yeah.
All
Oh, I really
Your
want to put him
audience
on.
is able to hear me now.
I really want to put him on screen now, just to give him a little.
Go ahead. I mean, I'm
Go for it. If you can figure it out.
Oh yeah, I could figure this out totally. Watch this. I'm gonna move my mic out of the way. Yeah. Here we go. I'm only going to keep this up here for like a second, just because this has actually the stream and all that too. But there you guys go. There's my dad. They can see you, Dad.
oh, okay.
Well, see, the thing is, you guys already knew because my dad is blind.
Yeah.
So that's why he doesn't look at the screen. Don't mind that. So, but I did want to give you a little FaceTime credit, Dad. All right. So now, now we got the audio fixed for you. I will address that next week for why that's acting up, because it shouldn't. Because I'm actually sending you out on the same bus that my own mic comes out on. But another time for another day. Okay. So I will let you continue with your story. You're talking about the acreage and how's the best thing for you growing up. So we'll go ahead and continue from there.
Yeah. And as I said before, in 1969, my folks, your grandparents, bought 65 acres of land just south of Hernando, and that's where I did most of my, not just about all of my growing up, and it was the best thing for all of us. We learned a good work ethic. Yeah, we worked hard, even though I couldn't see as well as your uncles, my brothers. Your granddad, my dad, would make sure there was something that I could do. Wasn't no easy out just because I couldn't see good.
Amen.
I worked right along with everybody else. And we fast forward to 1988. My doctors all told me that there was no way that my offspring could inherit the vision problems that I had when I was born, because they said it was due to complications from birth. Well, you were born 2 or 3 months later. You did actually inherit it. Everything that was just like me. We had to decide whether, because back then Memphis had the best ophthalmologists, eye surgeons, or whatever you want to call them.
To be clear, I was born in Oklahoma, though.
Yeah, you were born in Oklahoma. Yeah, you were born in Oklahoma.
And then also, just a note here, even my son, your grandson, was born with the same eye abnormalities.
Yes, he
so
was.
It is very interesting that the same genetic, defect transversed 3 generations.
But what I was alluding to was we couldn't decide whether to go to Memphis and let them do what they could or stay in Oklahoma. Your mom and I both had good jobs in Oklahoma. And I remember talking to one of your uncles one night on the phone, and he said, "You'll have to make, the decision, but if you pray about it, whichever decision you make will be the right one."
Mm-hmm.
It was always prayer before decision. And we stayed in Oklahoma. We found you a really good, one of the top notch pediatric ophthalmologists in the state of Oklahoma. And I think they operated on you at a very young age. Uh, you, uh, I think that's the reason that you still have vision today. Just like when the junior, they operated on him at a young age. Uh, but I guess uh, one of the things I always try to teach you, and your mom too, is if you're going to do something, do it right. Do your best.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, if you're, when you got to make a decision, pray about it. Uh, uh, I consider myself first a Christian, a proud American, a father, a grandfather, and a conservative Republican. Um, Later, we moved to Memphis, and unfortunately, your mother and I divorced. But I was as much a part of your life as I could be, and that's what I tried to teach you. Is a good, strong work ethic. I think that's what makes. Uh, if it weren't for hard work and people's ability to do work, uh, this country wouldn't be the country it is today. And despite all the problems and all the mess and the COVID and whatever, I don't want to get off
Yeah,
on that, but we live, we are blessed to live in the United States of America.
I would definitely agree with that, and thank you because you segued just perfectly into all this. So, as a nice job there. Um, and my dad's right.
Purely by accident.
So my dad's right. This country was founded on hard work, and sometimes it was founded on when we first came over here to start this country. There was no help. There was no subsidies. All of that. Everything had to be built from scratch. And sometimes in life, you got to start over from scratch. I'm not saying that's what's happening here necessarily, but what I'm saying is when we start relying on a lot of other people to do the things that we have lost, rather than picking ourselves up, finding new opportunities and new growth, we start losing a little bit of our self identity and we rely on other people. And the thing about other people, and I'm not talking about anybody in particular, anybody, but the thing about it is in general, when you lean on someone else, sometimes even your own spouse, sometimes even your own family, anybody, they're going to let you down. Why? It's simple. God didn't make us perfect. It didn't even take two people in, Adam and Eve, then we screwed up. So, because of that, that's why we're not perfect. The human spirit by itself is flawed. We are going to make mistakes. The biggest thing, though, is that we pick ourselves up and we figure out a way forward. Do you know how easy it would be for me just to let, a disability check come in, for example? Do you know how easy it would be for me just to, not pursue this show? Because being on kidney failure now, and my dad knows this too. He had kidney failure as well. We both share that genetic makeup. And he had his kidney transplant back in '96. I'm
Yeah.
hoping to get on the transplant and get mine hopefully in the next year or so. But it would be so easy for me just to go to bed right now because, to be honest, even today, I worked this morning at my job and I have to be at my job at 4 a.m. And it stinks sometimes. I'm tired. I've been up now since 2:30 this morning, and Central Time right now it's 4:33 in the afternoon. So I'm already working on, 14-hour day right now, and I haven't stopped. As soon as I got done with work this morning, I immediately went to church. I serve in a leadership role at our church in our technical department, helping oversee things. I was fixing a guitar pedal board today. I was helping train an audio engineer at our church to mix better audio. And it takes a lot of focus and concentration. I am tired. Then I get off. My internet modem's been, dinking out all day. So luckily enough, it hasn't acted up. That was one thing I was worried about today. I don't know, and I still have to get 2 dialysis exchanges in too, on top of being here. Do you know how easy it would be for me to say, forget this show? I don't need to do this show. I don't need to do any of this right now. This is me trying to make an opportunity because I still believe that I've got a good message to send out. And all I ask is that the people listening respect what I'm saying, even if you don't agree with it. But at the end of the day, you know that I've got a good heart. I want you to know that. And I wanted my dad on here to try to illustrate that I grew up with good values. I grew up trying to just figure out what it is, what the right thing is. And it's not easy. But what I learned too is that when I listen to others, sometimes those other opinions, those other ideas make a whole lot of sense. Even if they go against my general initial inclination, sometimes they're right. All right, so let's go ahead and go into the topic because we spent a whole lot of time here. But I hope that people will watch this episode. And maybe I really should have retitled it. But the stimulus package that came out. So now you know a little bit about me and a little bit about the work ethic that my dad instilled in me and he instilled in himself. My dad being totally blind would be a lot easy for him, but he's still active in his community. He's pretty much retired now, but I can tell you he worked for, what was it, Dad, 13 years helping other
Yes.
people with disabilities be more independent in their daily lives?
Yeah. Well, it was 13 years there, plus, several factory and machine operator jobs that I had before. But yeah, at 13, yeah.
13
I
years
worked.
helping other
I
people
worked.
just like him who are disabled, who be awful easy just to get a disability check. You worked with us, Tom Harkin, right, on the ADA way back when, right?
I didn't work directly with him, but the organization I was working for was real big, into the ADA and helping people uh, who uh, who needed uh, extra care, who needed personal assistance services. The only way they could get it was to be warehoused in a nursing home. And if they wanted to live in their own homes, then they should be able to get the services uh, that they need in their own homes in the community and in their communities if that's where they chose to live. Uh, and there's been a big paradigm shift in that now. People aren't forced into nursing homes anymore.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's fantastic because it just shows folks like you and me it is possible to go out and contribute to society and make a living and then
Hmm.
make an opportunity for yourself. So, but with the stimulus package here, that could end up hurting a lot of that in the long run. And I think you and I are pretty much on eye to eye here. But what do you think? What do you think, Kevin, about this stimulus package? Do you think we should have spent $2 trillion in addition to the $2 trillion we spent last year about this time, and the I can't remember what the total package was around the November December time, right before Trump left office. Um, but all of these three packages that we've had, do you think they were necessary?
Uh, this last one I think was 1.9 trillion dollars.
Yes, it was.
Uh, but you have to remember uh, what the geniuses in Washington did, and that's all I'm going to say about that. Is
That's all right. You
and
can be partisan. I'm the one that has to stay,
okay,
bipartisan here. You can be
okay.
partisan,
Well,
and it's my job to
I
just
don't
kind of
want to be
question.
partisan because there's enough identity politics going on as it is. Uh, uh, what and this is done on by Republicans and Democrats. What they did is they went and put money into what's called pork barrel projects, like for the commission on libraries and or universities and museums.
Hmm.
They gave money to other states uh, to get rid of their deficits and those said states. That's not a bad thing, except for the fact that those states uh, got in that financial shape because, well, frankly, they're poorly run. And I'm not going to finger point and tell you which states those are because I don't want to alienate the audience. Uh, very little of this almost $2 trillion went for COVID help.
It was
And
reportedly 9%.
yeah,
But the Democrats would argue that while their 9% was basically directly to, COVID-19 research, vaccine distribution, and direct aid, the rest,
mhm.
they argue are more for the economy to help stimulate jobs. What do you think about that rebuttal from the Democrats?
I don't agree. I don't agree. You don't stimulate jobs by giving money to poorly run states. Uh, you you and there's talk of raising taxes as well, corporate taxes.
Hmm.
That's not the way you stimulate the economy. Uh, uh, we've got to put more incentives on keeping our companies here on shore
Hmm.
so people can work. Now there are some people who work minimum wage jobs. There's single families, there's single moms or single dads, and there's still not enough for them to make it. I think somehow we need to uh, uh, make sure that they have at least to come up, not necessarily a gimme program. I'll tell you the truth, I don't know what the answer is, but child care, I'm sure some of your viewers out there who have children will agree, is expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, it all, but
You
we
all
need
but
to
work
have
your whole day job just to pay for somebody else to watch your kid.
exactly. It shouldn't be like
Yeah.
that.
Well, I agree.
But and thirdly,
But is it the government's responsibility, for the sake of time here,
yeah,
is it the government's responsibility to make childcare affordable, or do you believe more in a free enterprise system? Like, it can't be. I don't see how it could be both ways. What do you think?
I think it has to be a mixture of both. I think
Hmm.
uh, the government uh, uh, can say, look, if the government and private enterprise working together, how do you think those vaccines got developed so
Oh
quickly?
yeah, Merck and who was the other
Merck,
one? I forget.
Moderna, uh,
But they got together, two
Yeah.
rivaling CEOs, and they agreed to manufacture the same vaccine.
Hmm. Uh, that's
But there's a
I
lot of
think
money
that's
behind the scenes. And that's what they're not. I don't feel like there's been enough evidence. And I would have loved to have talked about that this week is, how much money is the government paying exactly for these vaccine developments? How many billions of dollars went into that? And then the other thing that I got really mad about, and I don't mean to cut you off here too, but I'll let you kind of finish your thought. But the second, but the thing I get kind of mad about is we got so wrapped up into this COVID-19, you know, relief thing and finding a vaccine. It just made me mad that we never thought about a lot of the other diseases that we don't have cures for that kill people, lots of
exactly.
people, like pancreatic cancer. We still don't have a cure for that. We don't
No.
have a cure for brain cancers. We don't, for some of them we don't. Um, it just bothers me when we have a lot of those things, and I don't care. You can say, oh, they're two different things. It's much easier to come up because it's related to blah blah blah, the disease, blah blah blah.
No.
I'm telling you, if we spend even a billion more dollars on cancer research, I bet we could find some. I bet we could find a better
Well,
treatment.
here's from my perspective, uh, and let me preface what I'm about. We were all created uh, with common sense. I mean, if there's a COVID is serious. It kills people. Yes, it
Oh yeah,
does.
I'm not trying
But
to get
so
that either.
so I think uh, I don't think you do it or try or maintain it or get rid of it by locking up healthy people and not letting them go to their jobs and punch a clock and go to work. We need to get things unlocked. Uh, we need to get our children back in school in a classroom in front of a computer screen instead of in front of a computer screen. They need to be in the classroom in front of that teacher. Uh, that that is important as far as learning as well as the psychological well-being of our children. Uh, we have got to get. I think we've got to open the schools. Uh, we can't wait around for the next stimulus check. We've got to get people back to work. I believe that there is jobs out there. I believe if you use your common sense, if there's times you should wear a mask, wear a mask. Uh, the CDC was saying like, they don't even have to be 6 feet across or 6 feet away from each other in the classroom. Now, if I misquoted, I'm sorry, but uh,
So there's some specifics there, and I do want to elaborate because we don't want to misrepresent something here. So the
no,
stipulation with the going from 6 feet to 3 feet in the classroom, that is more pertaining to, I believe, elementary and middle school kids who basically all are in the same group all day, rather than the high
right,
school kids who
okay,
have different students in different classes, because they're broken out differently. Those students still
right,
need to be 6 feet apart, and then also where possible, they still want them 6 feet apart, like in the
sure,
hallways and in cafeteria, especially those type of things where masks can't be worn all the time. So that's kind of the thing about that. So they just made it easier
yeah,
to get kids in the classroom. And the thought is, if they're all sitting at a desk and they're not moving around the classroom and they're all wearing masks and it's all the same kids who are with each other all day, the same group every day, that it's safe enough to go to 3 feet. But the teachers still need to stay 6 feet away from the
yeah,
students. I believe is kind of the
okay.
guidance there.
I'm glad you clarified that. What I was getting to is this. I think there are in a lot of ways that uh, this is being used as a fear. It's fear factor. It's scaring people.
Okay. Okay.
People are afraid to go to work. Uh, People are afraid, so they're being uh, sort of trained, if you will, to just stay home and wait on that next stimulus check when they could go out and uh, we need to get people back to work. I think people want to work and take care of
Mm.
their own families. And
Okay.
I'll be straight up honest with you, and then I'm going to be quiet. Uh,
No,
I
you're
don't need
fine.
the president. I don't need the president's permission to celebrate 4th of July, and I don't need his permission to go to church or have people over to my house. I'll use the common sense that the good Lord gave me, but I don't need his permission. I mean that's all I'm on. And I think this is being used as a means of keeping people corralled up. And that's
So
just
to
my
the
take on it.
so to the title of the show, how do you think the U.S. is going to pay back this latest round of stimulus, and frankly, all of this stimulus money? Because we never had the money in a surplus to begin with. It was always a deficit. 21,
Yeah,
22 million, something like that, or 22 trillion, I should say.
I don't know, but uh, I think a good start would be for people to get to work, stop living in fear. Yeah, there's some states it's that the mortality rates and the infection runs higher, and you have to use more regulation and
So
keep people apart. But where people can go back to work and uh, just get back into the communities and have their own lives, they should be that's going to be a start. Uh, I don't know what the answer is, but I know we can't keep adding on to the debt because uh, my grandson and his kids after him will be paying for this.
I'm going to share real quick, and I know this is your wife, Meg. I'm going to share this.
She's here, yeah.
So this comes from Colossians 3:23, she says. And I'm going to quote from the New International Version here, or actually I'm going to paraphrase here. Um, Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for human, yeah, not for
Yeah,
human masters.
yeah. Do it as unto the Lord. So that's what it says. That's what it says. That that's the way that Meg and I try to approach everything, and we that's the way we kind of uh, try to teach you to approach everything.
Yeah, we certainly try. I'm certainly not perfect. I'm never going to going to claim to be a saint here and be above reproach because I'm not. But what I want to tell everybody now that we've gotten this whole backstory on both my dad Kevin and me, because in this show, if anyone ever questions, my motives for why I'm saying the stuff that I'm saying, even if I have advertisers or sponsors in the future for this show, I want everybody to remember this show. So there is no doubt, there is no question that I care about the message that gets out. And I hope that there is enough people who agree that you don't have to be partisan on everything. That
Mm-mm.
there is common ground. That two sides can get along, even if it's not a particular issue. We don't have to be enemies. You don't have to have this one-upmanship kind of thing. So here's what I want to do. To cut to this thing, because I'm sure a lot of people are hanging, wondering, is he actually going to talk about the stimulus package? Okay, so here we go. I'm going to bring up a news article that I found on CBS. And I'll wait for my producer to kind of cut over here so you guys can see it and look at it with me here. So it's just that second screen. Nope. Second screen. There we go. Thank you. Okay, how will the U.S., and this was last year, notice the date on here, so this is not the current $2 trillion package, because there's not a lot of recent articles now about this. This was a question raised early on and just has since fallen off as new stimulus packages have been approved since the writing of this article. So I'm going to summarize this, and y'all are welcome to do this, but I wanted to bring this up as my source for where I got this information. So the U.S. So we're going to scroll past all this. This is just their summary here. Okay. So the question they had, they did like a Q&A thing. So will the U.S. Treasury Department have to print $2 trillion to pay for the stimulus? And the short answer here is no. It'll make up a small percentage of what actually needs to be done. Because printing money is just the physical, it's not until it goes into circulation or is distributed and people actually take the money that they would be given otherwise electronically and utilizing it. So printing money doesn't work the same way that you might think that it does. But what it does do is it does create the situation of, where does the Fed get the money from? Well, largely they do it through bonds. So if you have a 401k, you probably might have a few things in a bond fund. And so those are safe investments, but they don't have a lot of growth. But the more debt that we stack on, it costs interests for all of that money. So while this one stimulus package here that they passed last year, it was reported that it would take about 10 years to pay that money back with the current bond rate, and assuming you take the 2017 corporate tax bill that was passed and you revoke that. But it does not address the pre-existing, pre-COVID-19 debt. So I could not re-find this article that I found earlier in the week, but I do want to say there was one economist about the same time that this article came out that went on record by saying that the U.S. GDP would have to increase by at least 5% over the next 10 years, and that 5% taxes for nationwide basically would have to go up. Oh, and in case you're wondering, for this one stimulus package, if each American, because remember, the $2 trillion isn't just going to direct payments. It was going to a lot of different research for COVID-19 and all that. So I did the little math here. If each American, and I'm not counting, I'm counting kids here, I'm counting everybody, because all you can really find for general numbers for number of actual taxpayers in this country isn't really accurate. We don't even have the new census numbers out yet. Those are expected to come out, I think, later this year, assuming we don't get further delayed. That's a whole different topic. But anyway, assuming that every American, so I would estimate the United States is getting close to 400 million people. Okay, let's just say that. If you take that number and you divide $2 trillion, you actually get about $5,000 per person that would have to be paid back. I don't know about you, but I don't have $5,000 to pay the government back.
Nope.
Nope. I don't. I know you don't, Dad. I don't. So, but the thing is the load of the tax burden is not shared equally. So we can be grateful for that. So lower income people don't basically go bankrupt because of the government. This isn't medieval times when the king or whoever at the time would basically take 90% of whatever the sharecroppers would produce. But at the same time, it's still going to hurt, and things are going to happen. We saw inflation go up this last year. Dad, how bad did your grocery bill go up, you think, on average?
It didn't go up a whole lot, but it went up some. And fuel prices are starting to go up.
Yep, yes they are. And interest rates are starting to go up. So they are not as low as they were. Back then, like car dealerships were practically begging people to take out a loan. It was like they were doing 84 months, 0% interest. Now you had to give up a lot of factory incentives, I found out, to do that. But they were basically please just borrow money here and just pay it back, but we need you to buy this car. That was historic. I know we see car ads all the time, but you have never seen that before. Interest rates for mortgages went to about just over 2%, and people were trying to refinance. But the housing market was still doing good, even despite all this, because of the low interest rates. And there wasn't nearly enough properties, people wanting to sell because people were kind of nervous about it. So you saw this, and the average grocery bill went up for most people about, on average, about 30 to 40%. And I'm not just counting toilet paper and hand sanitizer. This was a across the board increase. We saw imports because ports were getting shut down because of the COVID restrictions. It was really hard to import bananas the same way that we were. So all of those things got more expensive. And now, Raven, you can go back to that 2 box we were on, that one on the far right there. Yep. We'll get off this one here for a second. So you saw all that, and you gotta wonder. And I'm not trying to be, a conservative here just to bash this whole plan, just to bash it. But what I am saying is that there are very real increases, that you did good over here, but you didn't mention all the bad stuff that we're going to have to deal with later on. It was a very, in my mind at least, it was a very short-sighted thing to, one, it was an election year, and Democrats desperately wanted Donald Trump out of office. Desperately. They impeached him twice. And what, say what you want about him, but dang, like, try to impeach him literally 2 weeks. You know that they're not going to get a Senate trial in the 2 weeks they had to do it. And so I'm thinking about this not even as a Democrat or Republican, but I'm thinking about this as a common sense person, as you talked about, Dad. Looking at this like, what's your point? He was going to be out of office in 2 weeks anyway. Now, I realize he can be held criminal and all of that, but that's a separate deal. And technically, he could have been impeached after the election anyway. That could have happened.
Yeah.
But they wanted to do it anyway because they really wanted this plan, and they wanted to make sure that they appeased a lot of people who are short-minded, frankly, who don't think about this. And I'm sorry, and I don't mean, and like I said, I try to stay as bipartisan about this issue as I can, but the numbers are numbers. They're fact. And most economists agree that you can't borrow more than 90% of your GDP, which we are very close to that, the last numbers I saw. So what I want to wrap up with there is that $1,400 you got, if you don't need it, don't spend it. Please save it. Put it in retirement. I promise you, you and I are all going to have to pay this money back at some point. And then also, our kids are going to have to pay this back at some point. This is not going to end just because we're all getting vaccines now and that jobs are coming back. The damage is done. Something is going to give. If you tax corporations, corporations generally have a profit line that they want to maintain, regardless of how much they're taxed. So that means their services, their products go up. That means they're not going to hire as many people because that costs money. And they're going to try and do even more with less. At least in my common sense mind, I don't see how much good this is going to do for us long term. And I really want it to, because I feel for the people who are out of work. I feel for the restaurant workers, the bar workers, the theater workers, your frontline, your healthcare workers who have been worked dog tired trying to deal with all this. I feel for them. And I'm sure you do too, Dad, right? I mean, who wouldn't?
Well, sure, but the thing is as I said before, most of the money that was appropriated in this COVID package was that's being earmarked for nothing, for things that aren't even related to the coronavirus. That's what bothers me. Yes, we'll get our stimulus check just like everybody else.
But put it
But
away.
to sit there and misappropriate money and put our nation into further debt, thus calling in questions about our credit worthiness. I've only seen that happen once, and that was back in around 2008,
Mm-hmm.
and during the Obama administration, our credit worthiness was called into question by some of the other world governments, and I've never, as far as I know, never in our nation's history has that happened. And I can kind of foresee it maybe happening again. Uh, we
Yeah, it
just have
really
to.
could. Um, and you're right, it really could. We do borrow money from China. We borrow money from. I know we had some money from like Canada and um, the Arabic. I think it's somewhere over there. But don't quote me on all that because that part I didn't have a
Uh,
full research on too. But it is true. We do borrow money from other governments, and that's one way we can pay these debts. But then we got to pay them back in interest, and they can call us out on a loan. You know.
yeah.
So at the end of the day, it's hard. I get it. I understand that, and you're right. Maybe a lot of this money might have been wasted, but maybe it's not wasted in the same way that you think. It's not like this money that got earmarked for all these things. And I am playing, more of a Democratic advocate right now, but maybe this money that got for all these quote unquote pet projects, maybe all of it has some good. Maybe we will see some benefit for it. Um,
I
it's not
won't hold
just the
my breath.
Well, I don't think the money just disappears. I think that some of it will go into infrastructure, which is bound to at least help with some jobs, paving roads and fixing bridges and
Oh
all
yeah.
those other things, helping high speed internet, maybe helping. I am disappointed that not a lot of it got sent to the farmers. There wasn't a lot for ag and all of that, which, well, gotta wonder where our food comes from. So if we don't want to have to deal with these, COVID restrictions, help farmers raise a better crop. That's my mind. I know a lot of the farmers around here. It's some of the people I get to talk to. The profit margins aren't really all that great, in farming. I still think that farmers could use a lot of help to compete with China for, the bread basket and all that. And I think that's just common sense. That's not a Democrat issue. It shouldn't be. If you think
Well,
that sounds like a
another
Republican Democrat issue, it's not.
here's another common sense issue. You don't help your economy if you're the president of the United States. You don't help your economy by taking a
Well,
fountain pen and signing an executive order that kills 11,000 jobs. And I guarantee you, when fuel prices start going up, that'll be the reason. I know you and I have talked about Keystone Pipeline.
yeah.
There's things about it that you don't like,
No, I don't. Took a lot of people's
but
property unnecessarily, really against their will, which hurts farmers. I mean,
yeah,
that's our growing ground. And if that pipe spills, that cleanup, we're not going to know about it for a while. I know they got sensors on those things; they can tell. Well, here, before we get to the very, very end of the show, I really want to open this up to our audience. If anybody's watching here, y'all keeping us sticking it through, y'all are going to be true fans of the show. I just know it. So I thank you. God bless you. What do y'all think? I really want to read some quotes here in the comments. I have been reading them a little bit, going back and forth. Raven's been switching back and forth here. What do you guys think? What do you think this money was necessary for the economy, and why? Just give me like a 1 or 2 sentence answer in the comments, and I would like to read a couple of them on air before we go today. So but that's the thing about it is, okay, so you got to remember too, Donald Trump made a lot of executive orders and things like that. He
mm-hmm.
tried to build a lot of that wall with executive orders and trying to bypass Congress as much as he could. Um, so you're talking about spending money. Well, likewise, a lot of people who don't agree with that type of border security policy thought that was wasteful and didn't really represent what America wanted because they see America as primarily thinking like they do. I'm just guessing here.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to understand that the multitude of opinions here, yeah, you feel really strongly about that. And I'm glad you did that. And it influenced me a lot. But just for the record here, so everybody knows this, I don't really care either. In 2016, I voted for Hillary Clinton. In 2020, for the 2020 election, I should say, I voted for Donald Trump. Meaning, I will vote for a Democrat when I feel like it's appropriate, and I'll vote for a Republican. And I can talk in a different show why I voted the way I did. Maybe that'll be next week's show. But I got a lot of issues. Like, we talk a lot today about political stuff, but, in some shows we may be talking about, race issues, and disparities and
I'm not
equal.
going to be on that.
No, I'm kind of, because having some conversations that I've been having, like, some of these subjects, guys, are going to be really tough. Because pretty much no matter what I say, I'm going to offend somebody. And that's just life. I'm probably offending a lot of people even on this show, and we're not even talking about anything like that. But, it's one of those things, folks. And at the end of the day, I've got a friend of mine, and I swear he lives by the evening news. Lives by it. Will not miss a single episode because he really wants to know what's going on. And he is so politically strong in his opinion about what's right, what's wrong. And it's so interesting to listen to him be so passionate about it, but yet completely ignore another opinion. He watches it and he gets so stuck. I don't mean to pick on him, but he buys into it, hook, line, and sinker. And anybody else who thinks differently, like me, I'm wrong. And I might as well not matter. I should be canceled, basically. But what I want people to know, though, is that there are multiple ways to do this. Should we pass the stimulus package? I think yes. My honest opinion is yes. But do I think it should have cost $2 trillion? No. But I also don't know, where did the $1,400 come from? Other than that's what, if I'm correct, Donald Trump wanted that originally. But where did that number originally come from? Who decided and who started promoting this idea of $1,400 checks? Who was first at it and why? And I can't find an answer for that.
I may be wrong, but I was listening to one of the news outlets that I usually listen to. And you remember when the whole COVID thing first got started, the first stimulus came out, everybody got $600.
Yeah.
Okay. I think then President-elect Biden and maybe a few others on the Democrat side, they wanted $2,000 on the next one. Okay. The Republicans said, no, that's too much. So you take 2,000 minus the 600 they got the first time. What does that leave you? $1,400. That's where it came from. If that's what you're asking.
Okay, but even then,
I believe that's where it came
how did
from.
we determine that each American needed that particular dollar amount? Whether it was $1,400 or $2,000. How did we decide that that's what America, each individual person needed to get out of this? There had to be some economist, some advisor, some politician, somebody. The number couldn't have just popped out of thin air. And that's what bothers me about this. Like, maybe we need, if there was a logical reason that somebody could tell me that this is how much, not only do we need direct payments to each American, but that it was going to take $2,000. I want to know that answer. And if somebody else has that answer, please, I'm begging you, share this. Because I'll follow up next week even if I have to, even though I might be talking about something else. Because that is the burning question. Because that could make a huge difference in how much extra debt we took out. But what I also want to tell folks is regardless, all right, we're harping on this because it matters. It's our country. We love our country. Democrat, Republican, we love our country. And we want to see what's best for it. And that's why we have elections, why we have a democratic process. Right now, Democrats are in control. So you're going to get that logic, that thinking for at least 4 more years. But you got your senators, you got your House of Representatives. Elections happen all the time. So always vote. I used to say you can't
Always
complain
vote.
unless you vote. Yep. Don't complain unless you voted. There was a whole lot of people anywhere. I'm just reading here. And actually, you know what? It'd be cool if I wish you could see these comments too, babe. Because then you can read them. Because I have to look way across my screen. I have a big 32-inch monitor in front of me that you guys can't see. But I had to like way across it just to kind of see it. I'm just trying to read it here. Okay. Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, Meg's right. There was a lot of people hurt by the closures and all of that, and I'm not negating that. But I would ask, why $2,000? Why not $1,000? Why not $600? Why is 2,000 significant? Because you can't just pop out a number out of nowhere, and it's like it'd be like trying to go to the off, like go to a store and just pop out of your mind that in order to buy groceries this week, it was going to cost $200. You don't know that. You kind of have an idea, maybe. Maybe you know how much stuff usually costs. Maybe you're adjusting for the average monthly expenses and taking a percentage of that. That could be a realistic, you know, metric to look at. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't have had a stimulus package here, but I'm just saying with our current debt situation, maybe more planning should have been done decades ago for a situation just like this. That's all I'm saying here. All right, so now let's wrap up. I got one more article I want to show you guys. This actually comes from Dave Ramsey, and I'm quoting him directly because the man is a Christian economist. He is a wise person who definitely believes in, you know, political conservatism. And this was an article about this third one, and I'm going to skip this whole way through. You guys are welcome to go on the web, read this whole article, but there was something that at the very bottom, very bottom here, way bottom. Keep going. And I wish I would have put this near the top. Right there. Right, go back up. There you go. Focus on what goes on at your house, not the White House. I love that. Because if we stress about this so much, then we start forgetting what's really important to each individual, no matter where you stand, and that's taking care of your own home. Take this money. If you need it to pay bills, if you are out of work right now as a restaurant worker, service worker, or just anybody else who's struggling to find a job with the weakened economy that we are in right now, by all means, use this money. Buy groceries. Go buy, you know, I know Raven's telling me people are buying tires for their car. You know, if you got bald tires, transportation is one of those core needs. Food, shelter, transportation, and what's the other one he always harps on? I forget. But you got your four walls, right? Okay. So get your necessities. Don't do like some of the people my wife was telling me about, going out and buying big screen TVs. I don't care who you are, you're an idiot if you're buying a TV with the stimulus money. That's just wasteful. It really is. I can't find a justification for spending money that you really shouldn't have had. If you don't need the money and you don't need to spend it, save it. Put it in your kid's college fund. Put it in your IRA. Put it somewhere safe so that you have your own rainy day fund for if your COVID crisis hits a year or two from now. That's what I would suggest. Always think about your family.
Since you're wrapping up, may I say one final thing?
By all means.
If any of you or your audience is offended, well, you'll have to be offended. But I told you.
Our goal is not to offend. Our goal is just to share.
Well, I don't want to offend nobody.
Our goal is to show empathy to both sides.
Yeah.
And I hope that I've done that. And I haven't. If I'm not doing a very good job of that, that you guys feel like of showing empathy and showing a willingness to listen to both sides of an argument, by all means, please comment. But I
Yeah.
want you to know I'm not influenced by a big network. This is just me, myself,
Right.
and I. So I have no pre directives to follow here. I just want to get out a common viewpoint to maybe start bringing two sides together in a way that a big network news agency can never do.
Here's my final viewpoint, and then
All right, go for it.
I worship. My wife worships. My family, your family worships a God that is a whole lot bigger than any coronavirus.
Mm-hmm.
And he will get us through this, whether it's bad economy or whatever. He will get us through this if we'll turn to him. That's what we need to do, in my opinion, as a nation. Thanks for letting me share.
I appreciate that. Thank you. My personal viewpoint on this is always trust God first, and the rest will follow. If I just shut up and get out of the way and pray, God's always going to see me through. He's done it every time. But that's me personally, right?
Yep.
I hope, and I would love it if some of the viewers, this is not a religious show, and I didn't create it because I'm not qualified. I don't feel led to preach the way a pastor can or an elder or deacon can at a church. But I do know the truth, and I do study God's word every day. I'm proud to be a Christian. But when I think about when Jesus, what was it, 5,000? They didn't have enough food to go around, and all of a sudden the bread baskets were full and the fish were full because people kept following Jesus. They kept following him. And they all gathered around beside the river, right?
No.
No?
No.
Yes. They all did. There was like 5,000 people. You want to correct me here, Dad?
He fed 5,000 people.
Yep.
Bread and fish from a little boy's lunch. And
that's right. You give what you can, and it will multiply more times than you can imagine. That's the sentiment I wanted to share. Sorry if I get my Bible stories a little conjumbled up a little bit. It's a big book.
Yeah.
It's a big book.
Good book.
It is a good book. It is the good book. That's right. So, okay. Hey, I was good about getting the 5,000 right, too. I'm kind of proud of myself. Actually, I'm terrible. I know it, and I know the stories and I read it. I have troubles with numbers and recalling back specifics, and that's always been my fallacy with studying God's word is that, and that's part of the reason why it's not for me. I'm happy to talk about it because God's grace is universal here. So, but I want to make sure that I don't alienate people who maybe aren't Christians. Because at the end of the day, I think a Christian and a non-Christian can still get along. And hopefully one day God will lead them, but God has to change the heart, not me. I talk about it, tell them the good news, but they still have to make the decision for themselves. So, and I don't want to misjudge anybody either and assume that they're not a Christian either. So that's always my thing. But anyway, guys, we're going to wrap this up. So obviously, how is the government going to pay this back? Probably bonds, taxes. But at the point is, it's got to get paid back. And if you don't need the money, save it. And, think about it. Maybe we get some food for thought here today. If you need the money, that's great. I think that's kind of the both sides viewpoint that I really want to share. I'm happy my dad was on the show today to be able to just kind of give some insight as to my background, his background, and hopefully going forward, who knows, maybe we'll have him back on the show some other time later on down the road. We have a few other people I'd like to get on the show too as we go through our beta, so have some different interview styles. And but hopefully you guys will join us next week. Raymond, punch that outro music. That was a second one right there, and we'll wrap this thing up. Boom! Like, subscribe, y'all, and we'll be back next Sunday, 4 p.m. Central Time for Between the Lines. For Kevin Lofton, my wife Raven Lofton, I'm John Lofton. See you next week.
Can I move now?
We're still live. Can I move now?
Well, I'm glad I
Go to
didn't
black.
say what I
Go
was
to
going
black.
to say.
Mute. Mute.